Right, we know California is basically an incubator for crazy left-wing ideas, and this latest is no exception. Now, I present what the Wall Street Journal editorial board rightfully calls the world's dumbest housing policy. Are you ready? California is now imposing statewide rent control. Okay, to be clear, California's problem is that they don't have enough of a supply of homes. The prices have gone up, et cetera. Governor Gavin Newsom's big idea is to decrease the supply of homes. Here now, Harmeet Dhillon, National Committeewoman for the RNC of California and a member of the 2020 Advisory Board for Trump, and Ethan Bierman, liberal radio host. Harmeet, what kind of effect would this have on the state?
Well, Laura, here in San Francisco, we've already had rent control. About 15 other cities have it as well. And here in San Francisco, we already have a lot of landlords keeping their housing supply off the market, as much as 10%. We also have incredibly expensive housing and really tight supply and a lot of abuses by tenants and tenant advocates. Now we're going to have that throughout California. Now, the estimates are that we would have to quadruple the amount of housing starts in California for 7 years in order to just catch up with the demand and stop the prices from going out of control. This new law is going to ensure that landlords and investors take their money and invest in other states, sell their properties, let their properties deteriorate, and otherwise send this problem in the other direction. It's a disaster, Laura, and it makes no sense.
Ethan, do you actually defend rent control? We know what the scam it was and continues to be in some little pockets of New York, but do you defend this?
In this case, I do, and it's because we've had an explosion in rent in the state of California, which leads to one of the top issues that Republicans like to talk about, which is homelessness. We have people who lose their jobs and immediately are kicked out of their apartments, or rent goes up 25% year after year. Look, I'm not going to disagree that small landlords, that I have friends who are investors and developers. I talk to many of them. We need to streamline red tape to go along with the rent control, but I absolutely support it to keep families in housing and not living in cars with the rent increases that are happening.
Harmeet's shaking her head there. All right, Harmeet.
I mean, it keeps families in housing that isn't theirs. And I have an idea for you, Ethan. The fact that we have rent control is not going to move those families in San Francisco and LA into apartments here. That's nuts. The apartments are like $3,000 for a one-bedroom apartment, and that's going to be the case regardless. What we have in California is laws like mandatory solar in new housing. We have restrictions that NIMBY, not in my backyard groups, refuse to allow housing near transportation. And as a result of that, we have the 48th lowest in the nation ratio of housing to the demand. And none of that's going to be changed by rent control, by confiscating people's property effectively. What we need, and I agree with Ethan, we need to get rid of a lot of those regulations. But sadly, Laura, we're nowhere near that. And I want to add that.
Ethan, we only almost out of time. They're now piling on independent contractor regulations, saying that more companies have to hire employees and not independent contractors. What do you think that's going to do to business growth in California?
Well, actually, in this case, it's going to help because we have an issue where the companies like Uber and Lyft are just abusing the independent contractor status.
So they're going to be expanding more? I don't think. Regulation is just a killer for business. And California has plenty of it. Panel, thanks so much. Coming up, President Trump already